What if I told you that your intuition could be the key to unlocking the next level of success in your life and in your career? Yep, y'all, we are diving deep into a powerful tool that most of us aren't using to the full potential. And that is our inner knowing. Today, I'm sitting down with Jessica Bird, a rockstar intuition and energy coach who's going to show us exactly how we can tap into that gut feeling and supercharge our decision making. And if you've ever felt stuck or unsure about your next move and what it should be, this episode is going to be a complete game changer. Jessica is breaking down practical steps to strengthen your intuition, trust your inner voice, and harness your energy for success like never before. Get ready, because this conversation is going to blow the lid off what you thought was possible. You are listening to the Glass Ceiling and Sticky Floor podcast, the podcast that will empower you to shatter limiting beliefs and toxic behaviors to uncover infinite possibilities so you can live your best life. I'm Erica Rooney, and I'm on a mission to bring more women into positions of power and keep them there. I'm obsessed with all things growth and abundance, and I'm here to talk you through the tried and true secrets to get you to level up your career and your life. We talk about the hard stuff here: imposter syndrome, perfectionism, fear, and burnout. So pull up a seat, pop in an earbud, and let's dive in. Jessica Bird is a trailblazer, y'all. She has spent years in the corporate world, first as a sales executive and a financial advisor, and then as an executive's coach. And it wasn't until she closed a $20 million deal in finance by following her intuition, which, all right, y'all, I can't wait to dive into that one, that she realized the importance of intuition and its application in business. And that is why I brought her here today, because I think this is such a cool topic to be talking about. But Jessica has served, y'all, as a coach and an intuitive advisor to entrepreneurs, to executives, and to public figures. And there is not a better time in the world to be talking about this than today. So Jessica, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I am great.
I love this. Well, let's talk about you. You've just moved to California. We're in the middle of this big ass shift, pivot, up level, whatever you want to call it. Tell me about what is going on.
Oh my God, all of it. Yeah, I just uprooted my life in Austin and moved across the country with my cat without a home to land in because intuition told me to. And I knew it was time for a change. So I lived out of a suitcase for like a month, just Airbnb hopping until I found a place. So I moved in, we're getting settled, we are starting fresh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, your intuition told you to. What does that mean?
You know, it's funny because everyone I meet out here is like, oh, what brought you out here? Is it work? Is it this? I'm like, intuition. They're like, I'm sorry, what? Tell me more. I kept getting called out here for various events, engagements, friends, type of just the whole Southern California area. And intuitively, I knew for a while that Austin wasn't forever. It was a step, it was a season. And intuitively, I knew that there were significant connections for me in the LA area. So I kept getting called out for events. And then after an event, I got home to Austin and it was just an instant knowing I'm moving. I remember calling my mom and saying, I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know where, but in a month I'm moving. And in 30 days, I kind of uprooted everything and came out here. And I've just been following synchronicities and the breadcrumbs and letting it all unfold.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And one thing I really want to talk about today is because you've had this brand for so long called Zaya, and people have known you as Zaya, like called your name as Zaya, but you are recently kind of reclaiming Jessica as you, as your identity. And so talk to me about who Zaya is, what Zaya is, how that shift from Jessica to Zaya and now Zaya back to Jessica has kind of come to fruition.
That's a big question. So I was working as a financial advisor. And when I was in finance was when I started seeing clients on the side doing energy healing and intuitive readings. And most of them were executives who somehow found me because what they were trying wasn't working and they were open to something different. So I started seeing them on the side. Well, I had a run in with HR at one point because they found my little side business and I didn't report it. And there's all of these rules and regulations. And I honestly didn't even think about it. It was an innocent mistake on my part. Um, but I never wanted to be a personal brand. I wanted to create a brand, a business separate from me that I could run, that I could share wisdom and share healing and transformation, but I never wanted it to be about me. So I created a business called Zaya Soul LLC. And that was the side business. And then over time, people just started calling me Zaya. So I started introducing myself as Zaya. And then this whole other identity was birthed. And I never set out for it to be that way. Half of the people in my life called me Jessica, people in my work world, people who saw me as the oracle, as the healer, as the intuitive, as the leader. They knew me as Zaya. And it just so happened that as I got deeper into my own work, my own modalities, over time, seeing many, many clients, I started to notice themes. And some of the themes were a part of them was unexpressed and they kept it locked up in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of them that was unexpressed had the most brilliant intuitive wisdom. And a lot of what was locked up in them was related to sexuality or sexual energy. And so I never set out to do anything with sexual energetics, but over time, it just kind of happened. And the identity of Zaya ended up feeling a lot safer, a safer persona for me to share and express some of these more taboo topics like sexuality and the quantum field and how you can tap into your own power of creation because we've really been separated from our true power. And so working with powerful people, I started to see, oh my God, like even people in positions of power are not embodied in their true power. And this identity of Zaya felt, it just kind of became the forefront identity that felt safer for me to scream from the rooftops some of these things that I've seen and experienced and helped people through that were a little bit out there or a little bit too much. And it's been a long series of events, but over the past year, I a year ago I unplugged from everything. I shut off my big money makers. Everything I was doing in my business felt claustrophobic. I couldn't breathe. And I realized that I needed to take space to be with myself and give myself my own medicine because I was experiencing the exact thing that clients for the past 5 years have come to me with. And I've helped them through it beautifully, but I needed to help myself. And in that process, I found keynote speaking and started crafting my keynote and crafting my message. And a lot of things happened there that I'm sure we'll talk about. But right before I moved out here, it just became very clear to me that I knew when I moved out here, I would be introducing myself as Zaya. I'm not coming out here to like, hi, I'm a speaker, Zaya. I'm coming out here to have my own personal fulfillment. And Jessica Bird is the one who's tucked into bed at night. Jessica is the one who wants love and friendship and play and the human experience. And so Zaya kind of was this otherworldly aspect of myself that had lots of wisdom that can be very grounded and articulated and really help people. But it was this internal fragmentation of myself, and I was living my own teachings. I'm still living my own teaching. So I had to reclaim my full spectrum identity as the human being who is Jessica Bird. And Jessica was in finance, and Jessica has helped leaders, and Jessica has had all of these experiences and translated the wisdom into the modern world. So it's time to just fully reclaim Jessica.
Wow. So when I hear this story, like the first thing my mind goes to is Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, right? She's got this alter
Mentioned that to
ego.
me yesterday. Yes.
So talk to me about the difference, I guess, between this internal fragmentation that we have and an alter ego, because I do think there's power sometimes in saying, like, okay, I'm about to get up on stage, or I'm about to ask for this promotion, or tell my partner I'm not happy, and like I need to muster up all my confidence and just be Sasha Fierce, right?
Yes.
What's this difference then?
So the way that I see it energetically, because energy is my first language and I'm very much a seer. I'm clairvoyant. I see energy, I see patterns, I see thought forms. I'm a seer. And the way that I see it is we are all multi-dimensional beings. We have our inner child. We have our ego. We have our higher self. We have the my soft beach girl era me, I have my boss babe that, when I get up on stage, there's all these different parts of ourselves. The fragmentation happens when they're not integrated,
Mm.
when we only feel safe expressing a part of ourselves through a certain persona or through a certain name or through a certain identity. And so it really comes down to, I think, the identity. And while I think having an alter ego or a persona that you put on can be really helpful in liberating a part of your expression, I don't think it's fully embodied unless it's can be expressed through your full self.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I can also see too that if you don't really recognize that and take hold of it, that it could totally transform you and your life and your way of being without even recognizing it.
Yes. And that's when people look up and have an identity crisis.
Mm,
Or
100%.
what I've seen in the corporate world a lot, and I was there, I show up one way at work, but I'm some completely different at home. Or out of the office, I'm woo, and I have a spiritual practice, or I whatever. But in the office, I'm very logical, linear, regimented. And both of those are parts of yourself, but can they all show up together holding hands as an integrated human rather than having to compartmentalize your different expressions, because then they become different identities that have different rules and different beliefs and different patterns, and you start to lose hold of who you really are at your core.
Mm. And
I
how has
did.
it felt? How has it felt since you have reclaimed Jessica?
I feel so much more grounded,
Mm.
so much more grounded, so much more human, um, softer.
Yeah.
I think the kind of the energy, the frequency of Zaya is very like, I don't give a fuck. I'm here on a mission. I'm here with a message, and I'm here to help change the world. And I don't care about anything else. I don't care if I trigger you. That's fine. We're here to deliver something that's important, and I know that. And that's helpful to be able to like have that oomph. But Jessica, like I do care. I care. I care what people think. I care if people are judging me. Wish I didn't, but I do.
Oh, girl, me too. Me too.
Like I'm softer. I'm sensitive. I am vulnerable, And so I think it's been really powerful to feel that same I'm here on a mission, and I'm really vulnerable in this process. I'm
Hmm.
sharing things that were a lot easier to share under this other identity, and I'm actively reclaiming that. And even just being in a new place, it's a clean slate. No one knows me.
Hmm.
They don't know my background. They don't know my name. So I'm just listening to what comes out of my mouth as I meet new people and they ask what I do and I tell them my story and I'm rediscovering parts of myself, I think.
Mm, I love that. I love that. How did you recognize and discover this strong connection with intuition and with energy? Because I think that so many people out there stuff that way down, but you leaned in and you recognized that this was a superpower of yours. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I agree. I I believe we're all wired this way. It is one of our primary intelligences, but we are socially conditioned to not trust it, not listen to it, not follow it. I was a very sensitive child, very intuitive child. I saw things, felt things, knew things that I had no logical way of knowing. And I had experiences when I was probably 5 or 6 that scared me, and I didn't have words for it. And so I shut a lot of it down as much as I knew how to. I was still a feeler, I was still intuitive, but I shut down my seeing in a lot of ways. And it was in my 20s after a heartbreak. I started going to yoga, and that heartbreak was the best thing that ever happened to me because it cracked me open. And I consciously chose to face myself, to feel my feelings. I was noticing how all of these limiting beliefs of I'm unworthy and I'm not good enough and I feel disposed of. And all of these things were able to come up. And rather than say, this is uncomfortable, I'm going to go try to date somebody new, like, let me just go get on the dating scene. I said I'm dating myself for several months. And of course, during that time, I met the most people who were the most interested because I was unavailable. But I was like, no, I'm serious. I'm dating myself right now, and I need to be with me. And it was during that time that all of my intuitive abilities, it was like a light switch. It just flipped back online, and it was overwhelming to say the least. It was overstimulating. I was feeling energy, like presence in my home. I was feeling emotions that weren't mine. And there was one time I was in finance at this point, and I remember I went to the bathroom with gut-wrenching anxiety, didn't know why. And I collapsed on the floor sobbing. And it was the first time I remember consciously asking myself, whose is this? This isn't mine. Like, what am I feeling? This isn't mine. And I would get visions and they would flash, but I didn't yet know how to interpret them or what they meant. So it was a very overstimulating time. And I just kind of found mentors along the way. Because at this point, this stuff wasn't trendy, at least not that I was aware of. There weren't crystals on Instagram. Not everyone had an energy healer that they went to on the side. It wasn't the norm.
Mhm.
And so I just had to figure it out so that it didn't hurt me, like it felt like a curse a little bit. So I had to learn how to harness it as a power. And over time I did. And then people started finding me. And it was actually a kind of a divine intervention moment. I was at a yoga festival, just attending. And long story short, people lined up, strangers lined up to receive energy work and intuitive insight from me that I had no intention of giving. And after doing it one after the next, people cried in my arms and said, this changed my life. How long have you been doing this? And so at the end of the day, I threw up my hands and said, okay, like, I get it. I see it. I have something. I have to lean into this because I just helped a ton of people in a couple of hours that I had no intention of helping. And so I kind of set out to bridge my worlds. Um, in trying to bridge them, I kind of created two separate ones, but that's the journey, right? So yeah, that's kind of how it came back online and I stepped into it. And I've just been so passionate about helping everyone, but specifically women, tap into this deeply ingrained power that we have because we've been so cut off from it.
All right. Well, how do you help women tap into that power? Because I'm right there with you. Like, I've got the two kids, They're crazy. I've got a dog. She's even right here in my space as we speak. Yup, with your cat. I've got a partner, job, everything. Like, how do you help women tap into that power?
It's so simple, it's almost frustrating because the simplest things are sometimes the hardest.
Yes,
And
always.
I would say there's a few steps, but one of them is to simply center yourself. Everyone is pulled in so many different directions. We have 100 mental tabs open in our brain. And we know on our computer, if our computer is running slow, we need to reboot the computer. But we don't do that with our own brain or our
Oh, I
own.
don't even do that with my computer.
I, I wait until it shuts down. And that's what we do. We wait until we get physically ill or something is eating us alive that we can't stand it anymore. We wait until we're in the pressure cooker to be like, well, shit, now I have to do something different. Or now I'm forced to take time to myself. Now I'm forced to feel my feelings. So really the first step, like one, get quiet. Get quiet and center yourself. Because step two is you have to learn the voice. It's it's hard to listen. It's hard to know who's talking if you don't know who's in the room. We all have all of these voices in our heads, our ego, our fear, our inner critic, our parents, our teachers, our spouse. We have all of these voices, these expectations, these ideas. And most of the time, we don't even know which voice belongs to who. We don't even know our own internal voice. So, of course, it's hard to tap into the voice of your intuition because one, you're going a million miles a minute and you're not taking a 10 seconds to just breathe and feel. And then two, you don't know the inner voice that's constantly there. It's constantly speaking to you. And so I really teach people how to find that voice of intuition and then how to practice listening to it. And then the third step is to follow it. And that's the hardest part for people because the thing is, most of the time, we actually do know what our intuition is saying. We know what our gut feeling is about something. We know when we walk into a room and we feel tension. We don't know what happened, but we can feel there's something going on. That's intuition. It speaks the language of energy. It's just a different type of data. And so when we can learn to value this other set of data, I don't even want to call it an alternative set of data because it's not alternative. Logic and intuition work best together. We need both to not only survive, but thrive. But we live in a world where logic is valued and intuition is not. And so, as a species, we are operating with only one of our primary intelligences. Well, a species can only survive so long without accessing your full intelligence. And intuition is an intelligence that we all have access to. So they're simple steps, but when it comes to acting on it, we don't trust ourselves.
I thought that was so interesting, Jessica, because I saw on your website intuitive intelligence, and that was new for me. And it made complete sense because we talk about financial wellness, emotional wellness, all of that. We even talk about spiritual wellness, but we don't talk about intuitive intelligence and intuitive wellness and really
Yes.
leaning in and listening to that. And I was taking so many notes while you were talking about it because you said the most powerful thing was like, how can you know who's talking if you don't even know who's in the room? And that brought me back to like my own personal lived experiences where I was really just doing what everyone else thought I should do, what everyone else told me I should be focusing on. I should climb the ladder. I should do this. And then, you get to this point in life where you wake up and you're like, well, where the hell am I? And what am I even doing? So, when it comes to like intuitive intelligence, what are some of the daily practices or rituals that people can do to start honing into that intuitive intelligence?
That's a great idea, or that's a great question. One of them I love stream of consciousness writing. So I will actually get different colored pens and this is kind of how I've taught it over the years, is I'll help people tune into, for starters, we'll just say your mind, your heart, your intuition. We'll just
Mm-hmm.
start there. And you can ask yourself a question. What is my, whatever whether it's something at work or in a relationship, some question you have for yourself, like, what do I do here? And assign a color pen to each of those parts of yourself and free write journal and ask yourself, what does my mind think about this? What does my mind want to do here? Free write it out. That's your mind. That's logic. That's what logic has to say about it. Don't think about it. Don't filter yourself. Let it fly. And then pick up the next color pen and do it with your heart. What does my heart feel about this? What does my heart want to do here? What does my heart feel is right? Free write. Intuition, same thing. Now you just extracted data from 3 different parts of yourself that all have valuable information to share with you. Now we can actually look and say, oh, here's all of the data on the table. Now let me make a fully informed decision about how to move forward here. And it just gives you a lot of clarity. So that's one like decision making type of tactic or tool that I like to use. And it's something that anybody can do.
I love that one. I'm a big fan of journaling and reflection, but when you just broke that up into 3 different categories for me, I could almost instantaneously think of my problems that I got, because we all got problems. And I was like,
Yep.
well, my brain says this, right? And like if we talk, I just exited corporate America, right? My brain says, don't leave that salary, Erica.
Congratulations, totally.
Thank you. But yeah, my brain says don't leave them golden handcuffs, Erica. That is some income. It hits your bank account on the 15th and the end of the month, and you know it, right? That's my brain. My heart is like, Erica, you're not happy here. Erica, this doesn't light you up. Erica, why are you doing this? And my intuition says, you gotta lean in. You know what my intuition's over there, like, you know the answer already. It's not even telling me what to do. It just says you already know the answer.
Yes.
But putting them in those 3 categories, it's like, holy shit, there you go. It makes it so much more clear when before you're just sitting there in this very much state of like, I don't know.
It's this tornado.
Yeah. So that is such a great exercise. I love that. I have
Good.
another question for you, and that would be like for people who really struggle to access their intuition, and like, let's say they're sitting there and they're looking at that intuition category and it doesn't come to them as easily. Like I'm a star student, it came to me really easily. But maybe it doesn't come to them that easily. What do you do with those kind of clients, and like how do you help them overcome those blockages?
I help them move into the body.
Ooh, move into the body.
Most of the time when we're stuck in our head, I mean, people live there. People live there for years, especially in corporate America. You're just on the hamster wheel of the mind. And the quickest way I've found to get out of your head, out of that mental prison, is to get into your body. So, taking deep breaths. I have several practices, but I work a lot with the spine and breathing your energy up and down your spine. And then rather than just asking, okay, what does your heart say? I would guide people into their body to feel their heart. What's there for you? Because usually if you feel blocked in your intuition, there's usually something you're not feeling. There's either you don't feel safe with intuition, you have limiting beliefs about it even existing or about it being valid. There's something within you that's like a wall between your awareness and the intuitive wisdom that is there all along and has never gone anywhere. So we really go into the body to find what that wall is. And usually, I would say 90% of the time, it's a part of themselves that they've shoved in a box, that they're not feeling, they're not addressing. It's a part of themselves that is not expressed. And it's that part that has this infinite intuitive insight. It's a part of them that has this brilliant idea. But that part they're afraid of or have been conditioned to just shove it under the bed. And so most people's block is that they're afraid to be with themselves. They're afraid to feel their feelings and face their inner world. And so that's why I teach kind of self-healing and personal development and intuitive development together. Because if you don't have a handle on your inner world, if you're not fully processing your emotions, if you're not observing your beliefs and actively rewriting them, then your intuition is going to come through a skewed lens and you won't be able to trust it.
Mm, mm. And I want to end it a little bit by circling back to this $20 million financial deal that really awakened this intuition, because I want to know more. Like, how did you, first of all, you got the tap in, right? The intuition download, whatever you want to call it, from the universe that said to do something. Number one, how did you find the courage to listen to that and do it? And then number two, how did you explain that? Because I'm imagining if I were to go to my old corporate boss and say, this $20 million deal is hanging right there, and I'm gonna go with my intuition. I imagine people will be like, get the fuck up out of here. Like, I'm gonna need some data. We're not going 20 million on intuition, but tell me, because we know it worked.
Totally. So it was a spur of the moment thing. So this was after the yoga festival, after people lined up and after my hands in the air moment of like, okay, I'll do this. And it was around that time that I had built the financial plan. So I was in business development, and then me and the other advisors would get in, and we were, bringing in money that we would manage. And it was a $20 million deal. And I built the financial plan. It was perfect on paper. It was foolproof. We knew everything that we could know on paper. When we get in the room and my partner's doing his part of the presentation, and in my body, in my heart, in my mind, I could see it, I could feel it. He was pulling back. My partner was oblivious to it. I just knew in the moment that there were other decision-making factors at play that we could not know on paper.
Mm.
And I tried to like elbow him under the table. He didn't get it. I'm trying to kick him. And I'm like, okay, there's really no way to be nonchalant about this. So I interrupted him and just started talking directly to the client and asked some very pointed questions to unearth what I felt and knew intuitively was actually guiding his decision-making process. By doing that and pivoting the conversation, I unearthed details, like intimate details of this man's life, of his history, of financial decisions from his past that were affecting him now, that conversation ended up pivoting the whole pitch, pivoting the whole solution that we were offering him. We ended up offering him different portfolios. And it's because of that that we actually won the deal.
Wow.
Because we offered a completely different solution than we were initially going for. And there would have been no way of knowing that if I wasn't tuning in to the subtleties of his emotions, of his thoughts, of his energy, and seeing that there was more data on the table that I was accessing that my partner was not.
Which brings us all the way back to intuitive intelligence and using that as a skill in business to make yourself better at whatever it is you are doing out there. Wow. I love that, Jessica. Jessica, if you could go back in time to the Jessica who's about to become Zaya slash Jessica slash trying to do all these things, kind of feeling a little disconnected, what piece of advice would you give her today?
Great question. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is lean in, you can't go wrong.
Mm.
Because I think so many times we know. We know. We know what we're here for. We know what we want to do. We know what we want to share. We know. Even if we don't mentally, logically know, like somewhere in our body, in our soul, in our heart, we know. And I think I would tell myself, actually, I would tell myself you're gonna live your own lessons,
Mm.
and it's okay to make a mess because the messes can be cleaned up. But you can't get to where you're going without that. And I think we're pretty conditioned to want this perfect linear plan and the perfectly projected business plan and know how it's gonna go. And there's no room for mess, there's no room for trial and error. And I think that's what I would tell myself is like, girl, the messes make great stories and you'll tell them in books and on stages someday.
Well, I love this idea of you can't go wrong because you can't know joy without pain. You can't know the lightness without the darkness. And you can't really reach this new level of you. You can't become the next level without going through those lessons. And so we don't make any room for failure. But the lesson is those failures are what teach you everything you need to know in the process of becoming.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer too that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And I know it
Absolutely.
doesn't feel like that when you're in it. It
No,
doesn't,
it doesn't.
but it
This
gets us there. So I think that is so powerful. Jessica, if people want to work with you, if they want to get you on a stage, if they want to talk more with you, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
My website is www.jessicabird.co. I am active on Instagram at It's Jessica Bird. And yeah, that would be the best way.
I love it. I'm going to link everything in the show notes. Y'all absolutely follow her on Instagram. She puts out some amazing stuff, and you can follow her journey of still becoming this next level of her as she navigates her new life in California and reclaiming Jessica. So, Jessica, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with me today.
Thank you so much. I loved this.
All right, now it's your turn. Jessica just dropped some serious knowledge bombs on how tuning into your intuition can shift everything from how you show up in your career to how you make decisions in your personal life. But the real question is, are you ready to start trusting yourself on a deeper level? Because that's where the magic happens. If today's episode sparks something in you, please don't just sit on it. Take one of Jessica's tips and put it into action today. Remember, your intuition, it's like a muscle. And the more that you use it, the stronger it gets. And don't forget, it's not just about listening to your inner voice. It's about trusting it and letting it guide you towards the next level of success that you know you're capable of. So please take the leap, get still, listen closely, and then watch your world expand. But until next time, stop putting ceilings on what you think is possible and let's start smashing through them. And please, if you haven't rate, reviewed, or subscribed to the channel, do so today because it truly helps it land in the hands of the woman that needs to hear it most.